Hello, guys, and welcome to episode 5 of 3 or 4 EVs. I'm your host, Curtis, and I'm joined here by my co host, Zane.
What's going on, guys?
And today we're going to cover the used car market for, well, kind of all vehicles, but also look into specifics about electric vehicles in the used car market. And then we've got a few news articles to go through. Kind of light on the news this week, but I'm sure we'll talk about our topic of the week for a good bit. So
let's dive into it.
all right.
Let's see here. Topics of the week. It's episode 4, correct?
Oh, sorry. This is episode 4.
Episode 4. All right, so you have a list here of the best and the worst used EVs. So, well, number 1 here on the best, the Bolts. You know a thing or two about the Bolt, and it being a used Bolt at that.
Yep, so big thing about the used cars. So basically on my best list, I put the Bolt and the Nissan Leaf. And I guess the reason why these are on the best list is these are the oldest EVs out there that aren't complete garbage. So the Model 3 is also nearly as old as the Bolt, but it is outrageously expensive.
Yeah, in comparison, it sure is. They hold their value like gold.
So for the Bolt, I actually got my Bolt last year. Got a 2017, so the first year that they had the Bolt. It was a Premier with like all the packages. New, it retailed for like $44,000, and I got it for $19,500, and that was with like 36,000 miles.
Sheesh. Pretty good deal.
Yep, so not a bad deal at all. And then if we look at used Teslas, the Model 3, they are significantly more expensive. Let's see, I'm going to pull up a couple examples here. So close to me, 2019 Tesla Model 3 standard range plus rear-wheel drive, so the base model, 37,000 miles on it, and they went $39,698.
Wow.
That's like the best deal. That's $4,748 below market. So this is on Car Guru. So this is like...
Where is that actually?
This one is in... See, I think they're kind of grouping this with everything else because it's like, oh, free delivery. Oh, it's through Vroom.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I've never heard of them, actually, until now.
They IPO'd not too long ago.
Huh.
Within the past year or two. I remember I bought into them when they IPO'd, and then I sold it out too much later.
So this seems like a decent deal. I guess it is a decent deal based on everything else. But this car, I think when it was out in 2019, it was brand new for $40,000. Well, actually, no. It was brand new for $38,000.
So here it is, 3 years later, 37,000 miles later.
Yeah.
And it's how much again?
$39,700.
So it's actually probably more expensive than it was new.
It is more expensive than it was new.
That's cool.
Now, you cannot buy the cheapest Model 3 now new is $45 basically. But the person that bought this new in 2019 paid $38,000 for it. And they paid on it for 3 or 4 years. So when they went to sell it or trade it in, they had a pretty hefty down payment on another car, I would say.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, we were talking to a guy at a Hyundai dealership, I guess a couple months ago. He was saying, yeah, they cut the guy a check for, I think he said $7,000 more than his Tesla Model 3 was purchased for. I guess just because the unfamiliarity with all these dealerships and EVs, which is especially going to hit hard when most of their inventory is going to be EVs. Maybe he was like, yeah, we just really couldn't find anything. So we ended up cutting him a check, and it turned out to be $7,000 more than they bought it for. So he had it, and I think he only had it for maybe a year. And he said he put not very many miles on it, really, or maybe a little bit more. I don't know. Probably your average for a year, probably 12,000 or something like that. You made $7,000, just like that. Check out the door, done.
Yeah,
I mean that'd be easy. But I've heard of several people trading in Teslas or other EVs that just don't like them. They just can't get on the train yet. I guess they're not happy with the infrastructure.
I think a lot of probably if you look at just Tesla, maybe they're not happy with all the buttons, everything's through the screen.
Yeah, that's also
I know
true.
for
Yeah.
like some older users of vehicles, like they kind of don't like that. Like my grandma's kind of like that. She's like, I wouldn't like this. This would just distract me, like this giant screen. I was like, yeah, kind of most things are moving towards that big screen. I'm actually trying to find something here. Speaking of the used EV market, there's this place in Canada. I thought I bookmarked it the other day. It's called. Oh, I probably did bookmark it. It's probably in the car section of my bookmarks. I was just looking at these.
Yeah, that would make sense.
All EV, so they specialize in just electric vehicles.
In Canada?
Yeah, I thought it was really cool because they probably know what they're talking about when you show up.
I'm sure, yeah, it would be like enthusiasts that want to sell EVs. So, yeah, they just collect, I guess, used EVs probably.
Yeah, they mostly here looking on their website. They have, God, mostly Teslas, but there's a bolts and Teslas, all over the place.
That
Used
makes
market.
sense. That's about all that's out right now. That's reasonable.
So they specialize in EVs, which was really cool. And actually, I was watching a video on YouTube of them doing a battery pack replacement in a Bolt. I don't know. I guess they're also maybe Chevrolet certified to do some repairs. I guess.
I don't blame them.
Um,
There's probably not any other place that's competent enough to do it.
yeah. So yeah.
Hey, you're getting yours replaced pretty soon too, aren't you?
Yeah, so my recall, my Bolt, basically what happens is all the cars were recalled sometime last year, middle of last year, and then once you're ready for a battery, once they're ready to give you a battery, they switch your recall number, and that means they've reserved a battery for you, and then
Interesting.
the dealership has to order it. They said it takes roughly 3 weeks to come in, and then it takes probably a day or two to do the replacement. And then something cool about that is the battery. It's shipped in this giant wooden crate, and it's like bolted in with screws. And they gotta use a drill to open up the crate. But the battery weighs 1,000 pounds.
Wow.
And but they said I was watching the replacement of that all EV place in Canada, and it's apparently really a one-person job for almost all of it. Because
That's pretty cool.
They have proper lifting things. Like he had like this table he sat it on, that he slowly lifted it up.
Lifted it up into
Yeah.
position and screwed it in. Yeah, that makes sense. It's a little different than doing it in the driveway, I guess.
Yeah. So, maybe they might need help lining it up right when they're pushing it up. I don't know. But they said it's primarily a one-person job.
Well, that's good.
so
That Chevy thought ahead and made it easy to replace. I know having Fords for a little while was always a treat, trying to do any maintenance. Everything
Yeah.
was always more difficult than it needed to be. Like your cabin air filter, you had to take off the entire glove box, trim panel on the dash, like all this stuff just to get to the cabin air filter. So most cars, it's just a single panel, or it's inside of the cabin air filter. The glove box, and it just pops out. So I had to disassemble half the car. It seemed like.
Now, there could be other stuff on the car that's super complicated. I don't know. I haven't really done a lot of work on. I haven't had to do anything on the car since I've had it. I don't think I've done anything to the car.
Well, that's good. That's how it ought to be.
But something interesting about the battery replacement, this is good for our viewers, is it is a negative. They don't know a whole lot about replacing the battery. But if you want to put a positive spin on that, it also means they've never had to really replace any batteries.
That's
so
true.
Kind of a general trend I've seen on the internet is a lot of dealerships are struggling or screwing up the first-time battery replacement. And people are frustrated, and I would be frustrated too, but on the good side of that is that means they're not having to do any battery replacements.
Mm-hmm.
So they've sold quite a few Bolts. So they kind of combined Bolt and Volt sales. I believe it's somewhere like 140,000 of those combined have been sold. And
Since like the creation of the Volt.
yeah, well, the Volt's been out for a while. The Volt,
Yeah, I know
Volt
it's
came
been
out
out a
like
while.
2011 or 12 or 13, somewhere around there. And then the Bolt didn't come out until like 2016 as a 2017 model year. So
Let me see here. Chevy Volt debut.
so that is kind of a good thing. They're not really having to replace a lot of battery packs. I think that's really true for most EVs, though.
Yeah, it was 2011.
2011.
Oh, you're
wow,
good.
okay. Yeah, I thought it may have been later, but I thought it could be as early as 2011. I still see a few Volts actually around town. I do wonder, though. I don't know if you've ever thought about this. Do you ever think people buy a Volt? It's a plug-in hybrid,
Mm-hmm.
and then just never plug it in and don't even know that it is a plug-in hybrid? Because I feel like they do.
I don't know. I think most people that go for any alternative style vehicle
Like, what
knows
if the
a thing or
dealership
two.
doesn't know what they're talking about, though? They just say, yeah, it's a hybrid. and the person never looks into it. I think it's possible.
I guess it's possible.
My uncle told me if this was like a year or two ago. This is before I really got into like electric vehicles, and he's like, "Yeah, I knew this guy at work who bought like this Chevy Volt and paid like it was like $400 a month car payment." And I was like, "He's like that's so stupid." And like he got ripped off. I didn't know about the Volt very much at the time, but the Volt has like a range of it's like 40 to 50 miles on battery. I guess you could look that up really quick, but
Yeah, I'll fact
it
check
has a
you real
lot
quick.
of range. Like you can do your daily commute with it. Like $400 a month, it is I guess steep for that type of vehicle, but it could also save you a ton of fuel. So I think there's actually a lot of people who, well, there's a lot of people who don't know what it is. Like it's a plug-in, but there could be buyers that buy it used
Yeah,
and
it's
don't know.
38-mile battery only. That's on a 2015.
Okay,
They may have improved that
yeah,
slightly.
they made those all the way up to like 19, I think.
Oh yeah, see, in 16 had 53.
Yeah, that's actually
That's a pretty big uptick in 1 year.
there's hardly any plug-in hybrids that do that. I think the Prius Prime might do around that, and everything else is less. But most of them are SUVs, so that probably explains that.
Yeah, I seen 18 and a 19. Yeah, they upgraded them in 16, I guess. It's a 53-mile battery, 420 total range.
Yeah, that's
When
mighty
they
impressive.
debuted in 2011, it was a 35-mile battery and a 380-mile total range.
Yeah,
So, hey, you gain 40 miles, and you gain 20 of that on your battery. So, round town driving's pretty easy on 53 miles. If you go to the store, or
yeah, that's
even
a lot
for
of
me
range.
going to work, about 20-minute drive both ways, I could still do it.
Yeah,
It's only total 30 miles ish. So, yeah, not bad. Do it all EV unless you're going on a longer trip. You just do electric almost all the time.
and if you're on a longer trip and you run across a level 2 charger and you're gonna go inside and shop or eat, you can plug your car in.
Yeah.
You get 50 miles basically of free range.
EV it a little bit. It's pretty cool.
'Cause those don't support fast charging. Those plug-in hybrids, so that's only on like the level 2s, which are generally free. So you're gonna get basically free range.
Free range.
So getting the equivalent of like 2 gallons of gas at most.
Yeah, and then a price, or in a time when gas prices are up and pending to go up more and more with Ukraine and Russia going at it and sanctions on all the oil over there.
Yeah,
Not good. Yeah, plug it in, get some free range is definitely a good idea. Kind of going off topic, but not really. Backtracking a little bit. When I was saying earlier, people return Teslas for whatever reason. They don't like them. They're not used to them. I don't know if you, I guess you know Out of Spec Reviews, right? Yeah, I saw a video today. His mom bought a Porsche.
I can. Was it
No, no, it
EV?
was
Oh
a
no, gasoline.
gasoline SUV. I forget which one it was. It was how do you pronounce it? The one with the M. Is it Macan?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. I think she bought one of those. She had a Tesla Model Y beforehand. She traded it in and bought a gasoline Porsche. And he was like, "So how's the gas?" She was like, "Yeah, it's kind of expensive compared to not having to buy gas for a while." But she's like, "Man, outside of EVs, Porsche's the best driving experience there is." And
She should have bought a Taycan.
yeah, I know. I don't know. I don't know why. I think he said she wasn't a big fan of the electric. I don't know why. I guess she just wasn't used to it. Didn't feel like trying. So she.
Strange. I feel like you don't hear of a
Buckled.
lot of people that go fully electric with a decent vehicle and then like go back.
Yeah.
That's really rare.
That's kind of how Maddie's dad was. He wanted a Porsche, and so he wanted a Tesla for a while, and then he was backing off the gas. He was like, "Actually, I think I want a Porsche SUV," and I was like, "What made you change your mind?" I was like, "What is going on?"
Oh, this is recently. He almost got a Porsche, right, instead of a Tesla.
Yeah, it was like a month or two before he ordered his Tesla. He was like, "Maybe I'll get a Porsche Cayenne," and I was like, "Why would you get a Porsche Cayenne?"
Well, basically, you said it was not even as nice as the Genesis.
No, yeah,
Or you
their
got to spend like
Genesis SUV
40 grand more, right, to match the Genesis.
is because I've driven the Cayenne. Granted, I don't know what trim level it was. It could have been closer to a base, but still like a $70,000 car at base. So you'd think a lot of stuff would be mainly standard, or
Oh,
the stuff
no,
that is
not
standard
Porsche.
would be
They gouge you for
higher
everything.
quality. But yeah, it's pretty bare bones. I know that one in particular. He's having issues with cruise control, and I don't know if they have fixed it yet. It's been a couple months, and he was just without it. And they were like, "I don't know.
On
We'll
what?
figure it out on the Cayenne, Porsche."
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm glad Glad Terry chose to get a Model Y.
Wait, who's having issues with their cruise control in the Cayenne?
Uh, the urologist.
Oh, okay, okay. I was a little confused there on who we were talking
Oh,
about.
yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely Porsche in general. Even on their EVs, they charge you a fortune on stuff. I remember I was watching an out of spec video, and they had a Taycan, which is the all electric,
Mm-hmm.
kind of I guess you could call it sedan to an
Yeah,
extent.
I would say it's a sedan.
And it was like 11 grand for like nicer seats and ventilated seats and like a few other features. $11,000.
No thanks.
So they charge you a lot. But I guess people that buy Porsches,
Guess they're
I don't know.
prepared
I
to
mean, I
spend a
guess you
lot.
get your buyers that really can't go above base, but a lot of times it's not that big of a deal to some of those buyers. That's how they
That's
get away
why
with
they
charging.
have luxury cars. Yeah, these people, they don't care.
They have
Go
value
in.
luxury, and then they have like you're going to pay for everything. So like Genesis is value luxury. Maybe even Lex. I think Lexus is value luxury. I would say kind of. I don't think they charge you. They don't charge you for every little thing.
I'm not sure how Lincoln does, if they charge for everything or not.
I don't know, but I know like Mercedes will charge you for every little thing. Like they split the safety features into like 4 packages instead of just making them standard.
Yeah, Mercedes is crazy about that. And I
gotta-
guess Porsche and I guess most of those brands. Land Rover, I'm not sure on them actually.
Yeah, you can get all the safety features standard on a Honda Civic or a Mazda 3 at legit $22,000.
Yeah,
And then you buy a C class for 45, and they're like everything's extra.
everything. Yeah, I test drove a C-Class, I guess, early last year. Had the nerve to tell the guy at the Mercedes dealership that it was just not nice enough because they wanted 30 grand for this used C-Class. Didn't have ventilated seats. Infotainment sucked. I was like, geez, my Fusion's got better features than this thing does. And this thing is 10 grand more, and it's a Mercedes.
I mean, obviously the Mercedes is going to be quieter. It should be quieter. It should ride a little bit better. But in terms of tech,
But it was lacking. Yeah, I don't even know if it had CarPlay.
so I think there is though kind of there's a good mix though, because I remember when we drove the Sonata, I was like, they're basically just trying to drown you out with tech. They're trying to have tech basically make you forget about the loud engine and it's not very fast and it's not super cushy and the seats aren't super cushy.
Seats were not super cushy. Yeah,
But-
they were kind of lacking.
And then on the other hand, you have Mercedes, who's going to give you generally the comfier seats and the comfier ride and the quieter ride, but then the tech you got to pay a fortune for. So it's kind of finding that value,
So you get the car.
finding that in between where you have, the tech and you also have the comfort, and you don't spend, 80 grand.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like cell phones now. They're phones. They're even called phones. But there's so many more aspects to them. People buy them for these other things versus just being a phone. So I guess in that sense, Mercedes is like, look, it's a car. It drives really nice. It does car things. All the other stuff is up to you. And everybody else is like, oh, but wait, we'll compete. We'll be value luxury of sorts and give you all these things you have to pay a fortune for. However, it's not as comfy. Yeah, and that Sonata was pretty loud on the interstate.
Oh yeah.
I think the panoramic sunroof doesn't help with that. Because I know like the 6 that I have now does not have a panoramic roof, but the C-Class did that I drove. Like I said, it's been
Well,
over a year. I
you
can't
use
remember.
Better insulated glass, or the shade could be insulated better on the Mercedes, or I'm sure they spend more money on sound dampening materials at Mercedes.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely kind of finding that happy balance between tech and comfort. But yeah, I think one more thing with that before we move on is, I think for some people, especially probably I would assume some of the older buyers, they don't really care about the tech. They kind of just want the comfort.
A car.
And they also kind of do it, buy it for the name or the badge. There's still a lot of the luxury buyers.
That's
that buy it
how
for
the
badge.
luxury brands get away with it. It's the badge. Because I guess most people focus on the outside appearance of things.
Oh, definitely. Every time someone's like, "Oh, you bought a car? Do you have a picture of it?" They're not asking about the interior. They're always asking about the exterior.
Yep.
But anytime I ask someone for a picture of their car, they start
How's
showing me the
inside?
exterior, and I'm like, "No, where's the interior at? Let me see the interior. That's where you're gonna spend all your time. I don't care how cool it looks on the outside. I mean, as long as it's not, absolute garbage
Right.
or like a completely terrible looking color. I'm not going to be that picky about the outside of the car. Like when I've bought a lot of cars, like I'm not really that obsessed about the exterior color that much. Like I definitely prefer certain colors, but like I'd much rather get the interior color of my choice
Versus the exterior, yeah, for
with
sure.
the tech. I mean, there have been people that they want a red car. They go to the dealership. The only red car is the cheapest car, the base model. So they buy the base model.
That's fine. It's red. I got the car I wanted. Look at it. It's got a screen the size of my thumbnail, but man, it's got a red exterior. Yeah, definitely. People care, especially when you go towards Mercedes and Porsche. That badge means more than anything else. I want people to know that I have a Mercedes. And this, like, especially BMW. Goodness gracious. Like, all the guys that went to my high school that had, like, 10, 15-year-old BMWs, but they thought they were big stuff because they had a BMW. And I was like, guys, hold on a second. The kid over there that's got the new Prius has got nicer stuff than you do in that car.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the BMW is going to be more performance related than the Prius or the Mazda or whatever. But how often are you really using that performance and really pushing that car, and how often are you just cruising and just driving around the city?
Oh, they're just cruising.
Like there was the time to spend all the money on the performance, and there's the time to spend the money on the tech and the comfort.
Yeah, they're like, I have an import. This is it's a foreign car. I'm like, buddy,
Enjoy your repair bill.
it's been here almost 20 years. It's domesticated.
Um,
It has its green card, or it's got its citizenship. It's here. It's been here. It's not going anywhere. It's gonna die here. It's not fresh off the boat.
Oh, and something else. Kind of switching topics a little bit. I do want to tell our viewers about my experience test driving the Kia EV6.
Oh yeah, go for that.
A few
I
days
forgot
ago.
about that.
So I drove that. Didn't get to drive it very long, and also the salesperson was with us the entire time. But drove it some on kind of like city driving. I took it on the highway for not very long, like 5 minutes. Really liked the interior. Liked it a lot more in person versus the pictures.
Which is unusual.
Yeah, normally it's the other way
I
around.
usually like online interiors more than in person.
I think every time you looked at cars and you were looking to buy one, like you're like, I love that, like the Camry or like the Sonata, and then like we go look at the Sonata and we're like, oh, actually.
Yeah.
So
That's a pleasant surprise.
the
always.
screens were definitely my favorite part of that car. They looked really well. Like I like the black, so I thought I kind of for some reason like the Ioniq 5 screens more. I'm not sat in one yet, but at least in pictures, I think I'm liking the EV6 screen layout where it's kind of black, kind of hides the fact that it's two separate screens.
Yeah, the Ioniq's more of a light white.
Yeah, it's like white. It's
like
very
the,
clear.
Like the iMac
You
front.
can
now.
see the edges of the screens. It's very, very clear. They don't blend together.
See, I like when they blend though.
Yeah, it blends really well.
I think it looks better. Like the instrument cluster on my 6, the screen, you can't really tell it's a screen because everything's black and the screen is not very bright around the gauges that are digital, so it all blends. You can hardly tell. And they put that physical piece of plastic in there to kind of misguide you and screw your perception up a little bit. So they did a really good job on that. But yeah, I like that better. Blending, having everything look like solid when the car's off. You're just sitting there versus having borders and all that kind of stuff. I think it looks cleaner.
So the screens were really nice. The seats, they were comfortable, but they were like a suede-like material. I'm not really a fan of that. I like the leather feel. Whether it doesn't have to be real leather for me to be satisfied. I mean, it can be vegan leather like Tesla uses or leatherette. I kind of just like the leather feel of cars, and also I think they're a lot easier to clean if you spill something on them.
Yeah, frost will just eat
did not
it right
sit in the
up.
back seats any. Did pop the trunk. It was pretty spacious. I mean, nothing crazy. It's kind of like I guess you'd call it like a fastback. So kind of not quite a hatch, but not quite like a sedan trunk opening. Like it was very wide.
Yeah, they're kind of funky in the rear. They're interesting.
I guess you could call it the EV6 a sedan, but like from the rear, from certain angles, it almost looks like an SUV slash hatchback slash like a Frankenstein between several different things.
Which, these EVs starting from the ground up, building these new cars, they get kind of quirky with it.
The Ioniq 5's kind of like that too. Like, is it a hatch? Is it a sedan?
I
Is
don't
it
know what it is.
I mean, even the Bolt.
It's just like a compact, I guess. At the end of the day, it's just a little dude.
But I guess the Bolt's really more of a hatchback. I think hatchback's the proper term for a Bolt.
Yeah, for sure. It has a hatch.
It's the hatchiest looking one of the EVs that isn't a straight sedan or a straight SUV.
Yeah, I think so.
Like the ones that were questionable, I think the Bolt's very clear that it's probably a hatchback.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I drove that some. I didn't get to try. Didn't get to try out a lot of stuff. I didn't have a lot of time with it. I was also I was driving in an area I wasn't super familiar with, so I didn't get to try out like the Highway Driving Assistant 2. They have like the second gen on that car. I don't know if the Sonata had that or not though.
I don't know if it did or not.
It was a GT line, but it was rear wheel drive, so like 226 horsepower. So it didn't feel particularly fast. I guess it felt about the same as my Bolt. I couldn't really push it fast. I couldn't really push it very hard. There were a good bit of cops, I guess, in that area that I'd seen that day. And we, I guess it's been over a month ago now, we were driving in Charleston. I was with you, Zane, and you got pulled over going like 6 over the speed limit on like Route 60. So I was very, very cautious not to speed.
Yeah, I had those temporary Ohio tags and a bright, flashy red car.
Yeah, I think it was the Ohio tags that got you.
Yeah, he was disappointed when I didn't have an Ohio license. He just said, be careful. I was like, all right, will do.
You weren't really driving. You were just going you going 3 or 6 over? 6 over?
I was going 46 when I looked down. It's like, really, dude? Like, there was nobody else but us on the road.
It was 10 o'clock at night. Almost.
I didn't even know it was a cop, or I would have been a little more careful, I guess.
Yeah, you passed him to look at the Mazda lot.
Yeah, I got around him to see what the inventory was like on the other Mazda lot, of all things. And didn't even notice that big Super Duty had cop lights on it. Would not have expected it. I'm used to looking for Explorers and Tauruses and Chargers and all that stuff. But
basically any Fords.
Not the Super Duty. That got me good.
Yeah, that was kind of... I didn't even know what was going on there for a second when you were pulled over. I guess I didn't really see the lights very well. I was like, what's going on? Because you were like, oh, really? Or something like that. And
I know. I looked up. I was in disbelief. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
I was like over.
I wasn't basically nervous at all about you like speeding because it didn't feel like you were speeding.
Yeah, I know. Had I been like, hey guys, check this out, and like throw it in sport mode in Florida, I'd be a little worried. But yeah, I was like, I would get around this guy. It's kind of being annoying, so I can go look at the Mazdas. And he just decided to assert some dominance there and let me know the speed limit was in fact 40. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I won't look at any more Mazdas.
Yeah. So,
but.
Back to that Kia really quick.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I had any other thoughts. It was red. It was I don't know the exact red they call it, but it was red.
Oh, cool.
And then it was I had no intentions of buying it. I just kind of wanted to test drive it for fun. But that dealership was selling it $10,000 over sticker.
Shoo!
And the salesperson was like, I can probably get him down to $5,000 over sticker. And I was like, oh, okay. So they wanted like $62,000 for this Kia.
Was it marked at 67?
No, MSRP is 52, and then they wanted 62 for it.
So they were willing to go down to 57 for you.
Yes, yeah.
How nice of them.
Yeah, I was like, oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, you're a lifesaver. That's ridiculous.
It had already been there for a few days, so like I don't know how you mark a car up $10,000, then let it just sit on your lot, but whatever. Well,
because they
Chevrolet,
can.
Where I'm getting my Bolt serviced at, they have Malibus 5,000 over sticker. They've sat on the lot too.
Oh yeah, nobody's gonna buy one.
You'd be a lunatic to buy a Malibu at 5,000 over sticker. I mean, you're already almost a lunatic if you buy a Malibu brand new.
Yeah,
that sticker
depreciated so bad in the past.
Like 50% in 2 years.
Oh yeah, bad.
And I remember seeing.
What they say the Blazer does too. About 50% in 2 years.
I think it's every Chevy that's not like
a Silverado,
a truck, or maybe like the Tahoe or the.
Oh yeah, but they're on a truck platform.
Yeah. Anything that's a truck platform or massive, it depreciates like crazy. I mean, I remember Sparks. They were right before the used car market went crazy. They were selling new Sparks for like $12,000. They were like begging people to buy them, and now they're selling used Sparks for like $16,000 to $18,000.
The Trax is also very surprising. How many people I see driving a Trax? and they buy them new. But then there's so many of them still sitting on lots, and I don't know if they're dealing well on them or not. I've never had the audacity to look at a
You know what else
Trax.
shocks me? The Buick Encore. It's really small, a lot smaller than your car on the inside. You've probably seen them. You should look it up right now.
The Encore.
It's very. I think it's quite ugly actually. It's like the interior is like probably Corolla size.
Let me take a look. See
I
here.
think it looks like a Trax almost. Wait, was it
Great
the
to say.
Encore?
I thought it
Hold
was
on.
a little.
Wait, not the Encore. Maybe.
Yeah,
not.
the Encore is a little Trax mobile. That's what
Okay,
I
is
was
it the
confused
Encore?
that you compared it to my car.
No, well, I was trying to say it's like the size. Sorry, I didn't mean to compare it to your car. I meant to say it is very small. I see a lot of them.
People
So
like
Buick
these little
Encore-
baby things, like the shoot. What's that little SUV that Ford has now?
EcoSport.
Is that
I've
right?
seen a lot of those. But the Buick Encore actually looks kind of large on the website. It is not large.
Yeah, the EcoSport's the same way. It's like the same size as the Trax. That's their option.
Actually, I think the Encore actually has less cargo space than my Bolt. Wow. 50 cubic
Wow.
feet cargo space with the rear seats folded. And then the Bolt does... I believe it does 57. That is... Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I
57.
cannot do these little cars.
So the Encore is smaller than the Bolt, and I feel like I see so many people driving this thing around. And I think they drive it just because it's an SUV.
It's a Buick? What? I didn't know it was a Buick. Where's the Buick?
Wait, no, you're thinking of that ad?
Yeah.
You're thinking of Chevrolet, the Malibu. They're like, is this a Mercedes?
No.
Or they did that with Buick
they
too.
they
That doesn't surprise
they
me.
redesigned the Buicks because Buick, it used to be Buick was always the old person car. Like the old people driving to church always had the Buick, and then they like redid them, and now they look like they do now, and they're modern looking. So they always had ads. They were like, "Yeah, I'm driving the Buick," and they're like, "What? Where? Oh, that's a Buick?" It was always like one of those ads. The valet was like, "The Buick," or the person on the street trying to get in the car was like, "I don't see a Buick," because I always just thought of a big boatmobile with the logo on the front and the old people behind the steering wheel.
Yeah.
So now they have all these quote modern cars.
I mean, honestly, the all the Buicks look pretty decent except for the Encore. I just specifically hate the Encore. Well, there's a picture of it right there. Sorry, we can't share our viewers because it's just audio, but look at that.
Yeah, take a look at this Encore, guys. Look at that little.
I'm at this actually might be, I don't know for sure, but like Zane mentioned, this might be built on the Trax platform.
It has to be.
because it is so
They're
small.
the exact same size. It must be though slightly more fancy. No, Buick's not even like the luxury brand. Why is Buick still around?
Buick's owned by General Motors, right?
Right, and they have Cadillac. So what do you need Buick for?
They're just an SUV wing now. They don't make cars. They don't make sedans anymore. They
That's
don't
how
make
Lincoln
trucks.
is too. It's just all SUVs.
Yeah. Well,
Strictly.
that makes more sense to keep Lincoln because Ford doesn't have a bunch of. That's the only other thing Ford owns, right? Is just Lincoln.
Yeah, they used
It's
to.
not
own
General
most of
Motors
Mazda.
owns like Chevrolet, GMC, Buick, Cadillac.
Used to be
um,
Pontiac
yeah,
and
they've
Saturn and
Killed a couple brands too.
I guess Ford did have a hand in Mazda up until 2015. Big hand. You used to see like the Mazda trucks that looked exactly like the Ford Ranger running around.
Yeah, like the B. I think those were like B200s or something.
And then I thought they had a hand in Jaguar at some point too. I don't know. But yeah, Ford doesn't really have, as far as I know, anything else. Just their two brands, their brand and the luxury brand counterpart.
Yeah.
But back to the topic. Used cars.
We were on one more thing before we get into the prices more specifically. I think also had on that list other used EVs you could definitely look out for if you wanted to get something kind of budget, like 20,000 or less. As you look at Nissan Leafs, there's a lot of Nissan Leafs out there on the used market since they've been around for at least since 2013. But you got to watch out for battery degradation with those. The Nissan Leafs are air cooled. They're still air cooled, so the batteries tend to degrade a lot more over the years. But Nissan actually will tell you how badly the battery's degraded right on your instrument cluster. You find the
Leaf came out in 2011 too.
2011.
Like the Volt.
Wow, that's crazy.
They started producing them in 2010.
But yeah, that's something to keep in mind if you're looking at Nissan Leafs. See how badly the battery's degraded. Realize it's air cooled, so it is going to keep on degrading. The Bolts, they're liquid cooled. The batteries. My battery is basically almost 5 years old, and I would assume that the battery's degraded like 3 to 5%. Chevrolet doesn't tell you, but I've seen my range meter say 240 miles still, which is the EPA.
These Leafs are kind of expensive.
Yeah, brand new Leafs are really expensive. I don't recommend people buy brand new Leafs.
There's a 2011 Leaf with 12,900 miles on Carvana for $10,999.
That's a bad deal. I'd buy a Bolt for like 16 or 17,000.
You get a 15 Leaf for 42,000 miles for 15,900.
And a lot of those Leafs have a range of like 150 or less.
Nice.
2011s, you're going to get about 50 to 60 miles. Well, no, 40 to 60 miles of usable range.
Here's a 19 with 11,000 miles for 26,900.
Yeah. The Bolt's much better value because the EPA rated range on the Bolt's way higher.
I guess I never really looked at the newer model Leafs.
They look fine. They're actually more comfortable. The seats are more comfortable than the Bolt. I believe it's also a bigger vehicle. But it uses CHAdeMO, which is kind of a dying charging standard for like fast charging, air cooled, and then it's also going to throttle your charging when you're road tripping with a Nissan Leaf, because the battery cannot basically cool itself down when you're fast charging it.
Nice.
So a lot of problems with that with the Nissan Leaf in terms of that for the price. I mean, if new Leafs were $20,000 before incentives, go for it. But like they're like $27,000 to $29,000 new, and you can get a Bolt for like a few $1,000s more, or you'll be able to buy a Bolt in a few months for a few $1,000s more.
Yeah, they're not producing them right now.
They've been on a stop sale and they haven't produced them for like quite a while. They stopped producing them. It's probably been 6 months now because they started back up for like a week to make some loaner cars. I don't know for what markets. I've not seen any around here or in Ohio or anywhere, but for I guess some markets they made some loaner EVs. Because when I get my battery replaced, they said I would get a loaner vehicle. It's definitely going to be a gasoline vehicle. They don't have any EVs on the lot.
Why not?
So
I wonder what they have. That'd be interesting.
Probably going to give me a Trax.
They give you a Malibu.
Actually, I'd rather have a Malibu than a Trax.
Yeah, that'd be horrible.
Malibu's a much bigger vehicle on the inside, and I think it's actually probably nicer than the Trax on the inside.
Get a Trax.
It's a more expensive car, though.
All
Good
right.
bit more.
So I'm going to move on. We're running out of time here. All right. So I have a little article here from Kelley Blue Book on the used car market as a whole. As we all know, the car market, especially the used market, ridiculous nowadays. Partly, I guess mostly, microchip shortages. Stopping a lot of the production of new cars. So then,
Also, consumers just love consuming now. Like, I don't know. COVID
yeah,
just turned everyone into a
ridiculous.
mega consumer.
Yeah, COVID really started a lot of buying with people.
I guess if people thought there's a chance they might not be able to get it, they should go and buy it now. And it's just not stopped.
No, it's still that way.
For like a year and a half.
And it'll probably continue that way for another year. Hopefully less, but yeah. This says right here, GM CEO last year told reporters that America's largest automaker would, quote, never go back to pre-pandemic inventory levels. So you have the CEO of GM saying, yeah, we're not going to have the inventory like we used to. Ever. Ever. Never going to recover. Can't do it. So you're basically fear-mongering people to buying new cars. Or buying cars, period. Oh, man, I've always wanted a new car, but I guess I better get one now since they're not going to ever have inventory again.
Yeah, and I think some of that, I don't know if, I mean, I don't think they thought a whole lot about this with that statement, but with electric vehicles, they are going to be production constrained for several years. So if demand continues to increase, you're probably not going to see dozens of new EVs on a lot of lots. You'll be able to get one within a few weeks, but you're not just going to see hundreds and hundreds of EVs sitting on car lots.
Just sitting.
Yeah, you're just not. Like, you're not going to see the Silverado EV just sitting on the lot.
I wonder, I don't know if you knew this or not.
I mean, you might if they mark it up $50,000, but not a sticker.
Executives from BMW and Mercedes were similar with GM. Didn't want the inventory. They want to keep inventories low. Ford, however, is taking a Tesla approach. They're going to start moving towards a build-to-order model.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. It's very, very Tesla.
But
Order your car, which I like that idea, honestly. I would much prefer to go directly through a manufacturer, just have them deliver it.
well,
not have
that's
to worry
the
about dealer.
catch, is you're not going to get to do that with Ford. You're going to
I
have to deal with the
know.
dealership, and you're not going to get your car same day. And you're not going to be able to shop around on the lots. You're going to have to go through a dealer and order a vehicle, and it's going to be, it's going to make it somehow even worse, it sounds like. Because at least right now,
Yeah.
if you deal with dealerships, or at least before COVID, you could basically, if you wanted to buy a vehicle, you could drive somewhere and generally find exactly what you wanted.
For the most part,
If you were willing to drive 4 or 5 hours, you could basically get what you wanted. And now, or like with Tesla, obviously they don't hold inventory.
right.
Or they they have an existing inventory tab on their website, and they have a few cars, generally like Model S's.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a lot. It's not like thousands. It's like, I'd say it's like dozens.
Yeah,
I think it's like cancellations, I guess.
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just cancellations, like last minute cancellations. So, in some ways, I kind of do like. I don't like the dealership model, but I like being able to. Hey, I want to go buy a car today, or hey, I want to go buy a car in a few days,
Yeah.
and be able to go drive around and look at cars.
Instead of, well, I guess I'll get it by October.
Yeah, like right now, if you order a Model 3, black interior, standard range, October of this year is your estimated delivery date.
Woo!
So that's not a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, that's horrible. Especially if your car, like if you're in a situation where you need a new car now. And sorry, you gotta wait till October.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier. Like, if something happened to my car and I wanted another electric vehicle, there'd basically be nothing I could buy. I could buy a Nissan Leaf, I guess. That'd be
You
my
can buy an
preference.
EV6 for $10,000 over market.
Yeah, I could buy an EV6 for $900 a month.
Woo!
But like, there's really not a lot of replacements for a lot of these people. If they have an electric vehicle and they total it, I don't know what they're going to do. Hopefully they have a secondary. Hopefully they can borrow a vehicle, or I guess they'll have to go buy a vehicle that the price is super jacked up on, or just wait.
Yeah, I guess the insurance companies probably wouldn't be very helpful in something like that. They probably wouldn't pay for a rental until you can get another EV.
I don't think. No, they don't care. They
They're
say,
like,
here's your money.
well, there's cars out here. Why don't you get one?
Yeah. So
If it's somebody like you, you're like, well, I just spent all this money on putting this new charger in. I'm not going to go back. I've already
I don't
done
want to go
everything
back
in.
charger or not. So
Yeah.
I probably, if something happened right now, I would probably, I guess, try to buy another used Bolt, or maybe I could get, if I still work really close to where I live, maybe I could get a Nissan Leaf that's heavily used, and then just drive it for like 6 months, and then
Beat it.
sell it for what I paid for it. Because when
Yeah.
you buy something that old, it doesn't generally decrease in value at all over 6 months or a year. It's kind of like the
Like diminishing
depreciation. The
return?
depreciation kind of just stops almost at a certain point.
Oh, yeah.
on these
Yeah, that's
used
what happened. I
vehicles.
had a Silverado that was 10 years old. Bought it $5,000 cash. Sold it $5,000 cash after a year.
There we go. I actually had an engineering teacher that kind of did something similar to that. He would just buy any used vehicle that was a really good deal, drive it for like a year or 6 months. Or I guess he would buy new if it was like crazy. But basically, he drove it for a while and then sold it for what he paid or more. Yeah, I think his goal was always to make money and then kind of slightly move up. But
That's
you can
smart.
kind of do that with really old cars.
Yeah, if you don't care what you got.
As long as you got to be a little bit lucky though. You can't get something and then the transmission fell,
Right.
because then you're out $2,000 or $3,000. But
Yeah,
like,
or do donuts and rip the rear end differential out of your Silverado and have to put $750 into it.
at least you had fun.
I did have fun. Also had fun putting that in. But yeah, I just don't consider that whenever I sold the truck. I sold it for what I paid for it. What I did in the middle was my fault.
Yeah.
But yeah, like my friend Nathan, for instance, has a, I forget what year, 1980 something, Chevy Caprice. It only had like 20 or 40,000 miles on it, like low miles. And somebody offered to him for $1,000, so he bought it. He's getting it repainted, put a new engine in it, all this stuff. It doesn't need a new engine necessarily. I think he just wants one.
Wait, your Nathan bought it or he sold it for $1,000?
He bought it
Okay.
for $1,000, so he's putting money into it to get it painted and put a new engine into it. I mean, if it looks great, I'm sure he could sell it for more than $1,000. Like the interior's fine. Like it was just some lady that drove it to church. Basically, it's a boat of a car. I think it's huge.
Oh yeah.
But it's in great shape. And yeah, like I said, once it's painted and he puts a new engine in, all that kind of stuff, that's just for him personally, I think. But at whatever point he wants to sell it, I'm sure he'll make profit off of it. At least for what he bought it for, like $1,000. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you can't even
cool.
buy a MacBook Pro for that. You know, and they got a whole car.
I mean, that's what a phone costs now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that puppy takes premium gas, though. It's got a big V8.
And I bet it doesn't make a lot of horsepower either.
Yeah, I don't really know.
Not from 86 it does it.
Nah, I don't really
V8s
know.
from 99 didn't make but like 300.
Yeah. But it sounds cool. And the suspension's very different than it is nowadays. Now everything's real tight. They make everything real tight.
Oh yeah, that thing just
it just bounces real nice and loose. You hit a bump, you just kind of rock for a minute as it moves around. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But back to the used car market. So we saw in 2021 average new car. Well, okay, I'm talking about used. This is new. Average new car sales. The price topped $47,000 at the end of the year.
Yeah, December of 21.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was it in December of 2020? It was like
$6,220 less than that.
Yeah.
So it's about 41.
So 47,000. It's probably actually gonna keep going up for.
Or no, it's 40,500 or 40,800. Yeah,
like 40, 41. You know
crazy.
Actually, what's kind of happened there? Tesla has basically the Model 3. They've just raised it to match. Like you used to be able to get a Model 3 actually a little less for you get it for 38. Now it's 45.
It's a little less.
I actually took the $7,000 and just threw it on the price tag. And they said, "Well, we just rose it with the average."
That's crazy.
And they increased their margins like crazy. Because manufacturing costs did not go up that much for them. Like no $7,000 a vehicle. And then the used car market, what was the average used car price?
Average at the end of December was more than $28,000. It's 28% increase over the year. 28%. That's a lot.
Yeah.
In 1 year. Like, jeez. I don't even think the stock market did 28% last year.
It
did close.
25 or 26.
Yeah.
But that's like that's like the S&P 500. That's
right.
Like yeah.
Crazy.
A lot of people don't even put their money in something like that. They just leave it in a savings account or just I don't know, leave it in their checking account or hide it under their mattress or something.
Yeah, really good, really good.
So
let it depreciate.
So actually, what's kind of crazy is if you would have bought a used car or like a used truck last year, and then just drove it moderately, almost everyone their car increased in value. I know your Ford Fusion. You can tell us about your Ford Fusion that you got rid of.
Yeah, I think I've probably mentioned this before, but I bought it in 2020, May of 2020. I think so it stickered for like 17.4, I think. After taxes and everything, it was just over 18. But yeah, I ended up trading it in for 19. And that was after putting 30,000 miles on it. And I guess it was almost 2 years later. I was 2020 to 2022, just a few months shy of 2 years.
Yeah.
And took that thing to New York, took it to Columbus several times, took it on trips, put 30,000 miles on it, and still made money off of it.
And remember, this is the trade-in's $2,000 more than what you paid sticker for it. But what did it sell for?
That's
sticker?
Correct.
But the sticker price was what?
Yeah, when they listed it, Listed it for 26.5. Insane. Let me see that percent increase here real quick.
Now, maybe they didn't. There's a chance they didn't sell it at 26.5. But let's say they sold it at 24 or 25. They're not negotiating a whole lot right now with anyone. What's the percentage increase?
I think I'm wrong.
Is it just 39%?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Go just 1 second.
Oh, whoops.
Or is it 4? Zan's working on it here.
I'm having
you
a
could also
brain
look
fart.
up a percentage change calculator. Just look up a percentage change
Oh,
calculator.
yeah. Hold on. So it's this minus this divided by this. 47%.
47%?
Yeah.
Wow.
47% increase in 2 years.
Yeah, for sticker.
For sticker.
Because when you bought that car, the used car market was phenomenal for buyers. I mean, they were just giving stuff. I mean, they had stuff 2 years old outside of like Honda. They had stuff like 2 years old and it was like half off.
Yeah, that car was 1 year old and it was basically half off.
That car was 1 year old and half off.
Had 30,000 miles on it. And I was like, I'll take it. Because I was actually looking at an 18 at the time. I was a 19. I was looking at an 18 that had, I think, more miles. It had like 36. That one had 32 that I bought. And they wanted more money for it. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. It's like, this one's a year newer with less miles. I'm taking it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a crazy switch up there. And also something else to take into consideration is like Ford Fusions are not super. I mean, they're nice vehicles and it was pretty nice for you, but they're not super desirable. It's not like a pickup truck or an SUV.
No, yeah, sedans are dying.
So the sedan doing that is really crazy. So trucks are just absolutely ludicrous for some areas.
And SUVs, yeah, ridiculous. But yeah, so we had 28% markup over the year for used cars. That's ridiculous. So then, yeah, new cars went up too. So there's just all this mess because of COVID and microchip shortages and so on and so forth. And then, yeah, this change in the consumers to just want to buy. I don't know why. I don't know where these people get all this money. They just want to buy. They don't care. House market went up. They're buying houses like crazy. Car market's gone up. Buying cars like crazy. Everything's up, and people are buying more. It just doesn't make any sense. It's crazy.
Yeah, so. you look at median household incomes, and how low they are. Like for our state, what was it for our state? $47,000.
I don't know if it was 47. It was 40 something.
Well, basically, the median household income in West Virginia is around $47,000, give or take. We'll probably take some of that away. And
okay, yeah, it's 46.
Yeah.
And a half.
So it's kind of I guess I struggle to understand how people are affording cars that average $47,000, and I feel like houses in the state now, if you're in like the more urban areas of the state, 200,000 plus for anything like.
Oh, 200,000 is low.
Yeah, well, it depends on the area. Like if you go to rougher parts of town, you can still get stuff for like 120 to 150. But like I feel like $200,000, $220,000.
Yeah, if you're like in Hurricane, they, for instance, are building a new subdivision near Sleepy Hollow Golf Course, and I think they're listing all these. They're rancher style for like 350, 300s area.
It's like over $2,000 a month unless you have a bunch of money down.
Yeah.
Which most people don't.
Yeah.
First-time homeowners don't have.
Our house was under 300 at the time. We bought it in 2013. And I think it's 2,000 some square feet. Something like that. It's a 2-story. I guess you could kind of say 4, maybe even 5 bedroom, actually. Grace's room is basically 2. So I guess you can consider that 4 or 5 bedroom. It's got 3 bath, and it was under 300 in 2013.
Yeah. Well, the house I'm in now, I think the house I'm in now is probably worth. It was bought for $52,000 in like 2011 or 12, roughly. That's kind of what the tax stuff shows, and they had exterior walls collapsing, and it was bought for $52,000.
That's
So
wild.
now we don't have walls collapsing. The foundation has basically been fixed. It's not terribly level, but it's stable and it's not going to get worse.
Hmm.
And basically, we've put some money into it. Like it was not in a livable state. Now it's in a livable state. We'll just say that.
Yeah, we're in it right now.
So I would say that this house probably very easily could go for 90 to 100, and then if you do you put 3 to 5 grand in certain things, you're probably looking at like 120. I mean, there's a house near me that was like the same amount of bedrooms and bathrooms. I think just 2 bedroom, 1 bath, but it was like 150 square feet larger. So for like $130,000,
That's crazy.
and I'm like, that house is tiny.
Yeah, I was looking at a house in Hurricane that was 2 or 3 bed, 1 bath. It wasn't a very big house. It was like 120, 130. But it
Yeah.
had been freshly remodeled. However, flips are kind of.
Yeah, the biggest thing with flips, paint, paint, paint.
It was gray
Yep.
and white surfaces.
Oh yeah, they
It
have white
was
cabinets.
Oh yeah,
Gotta have
stainless
white
steel
cabinets.
appliances.
Oh yeah, people act like stainless steel appliances immediately makes it worth, $10,000 more.
Yeah,
But
it's
you can buy like
ridiculous.
all brand new stainless steel appliances for like 4 or 5 grand.
We just did.
Yeah, they're not. I don't like apartments. If it's stainless steel, they're like, we're going to charge you at least $100 more a month.
Like,
Like,
why?
okay.
Yeah,
Also, stainless steel's been out for almost a decade now, like common for like a decade.
we bought. We didn't get the cooktop, but I mean, most places too that you're buying or you're looking at or you're living in have ranges. We had to buy a double wall oven to replace our existing double wall oven. Those things are so expensive, so that was a
Yeah.
huge thing. And
Like
then
2 grand, right?
yeah, 2 to 3, some of them 3.5, 4, depending on what brand you get. We ended up getting a Whirlpool, but in that situation, you have to buy a really expensive appliance. It's basically like buying another fridge, and then also a cooktop. So we've just kind of been slacking on the cooktop because it still works. But they're like $800. But if you buy a range,
Oh yeah, a lot
you can
cheaper.
typically get the whole range for $1,000.
Yeah, and if you want, you can get a double oven range for like $1,500, $1,600.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm under the impression that whenever I buy a house, or I like to build a house, but if I buy one, I think I want a fixer upper because I don't want to pay a premium for stuff I don't like. I don't want to pay a premium for 5-year-old stainless steel appliances that aren't even that great, that aren't better than my 10-year-old beige colored appliances.
Yeah, fixer uppers are kind of cool as long as like the bones are good.
I mean,
Like,
really,
the
as long as
wood's
your
not
plumbing,
rotting, there's
electrical
no
work,
termite
and your,
damage, and
yeah,
all
all
that
your
stuff's
exterior's
in good
good.
shape. Yeah, it's pretty cool because you can do it yourself, make it how you like it, without having to build it from scratch. Without having to pay the high lumber prices for
'Cause
everything.
what some people do, and this blows my mind, is they'll buy a house that's move-in ready, and they'll go in and like gut the kitchen. I'm like, you guys paid a big premium for that kitchen to be move-in ready and done and remodeled,
And you redid it.
and you
spent
redid
extra
it.
money.
I'm like, ooh. Or I guess it's like people that buy brand new cars and they immediately replace like, I don't know, like the rims and
The
stuff. I'm like,
rims, and they
ooh.
drop it, and they do all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm like, ooh, you paid a premium for a lot of that stuff, and now you're paying even more. But all right, gonna shift gears here, back to the cars for a second. I did see, speaking of new car prices, Alex on Autos. I guess he pulled this from Edmunds.com. He pulled up the average MSRP and the average basically selling price of vehicles, and this data found that Kia is the model most likely to have a percent the highest percent over asking. So Kia's rocking 7.1% average over sticker. And guess what? That Kia, that EV6, it was a Kia. So,
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and.
I looked at Kias when I was driving that Mercedes last year, and every other automaker was having a really hard time getting inventory, but Kia was not. It was early 21. It was, I think, May. Wasn't even June yet, and they had 22s on a lot. Kia K5s
Yeah, I do like the K5
and Fortes. They had 22s coming in, like lots of them. And I was like, I thought there was a shortage. And they were like, oh, Kia's not having that problem. They're pushing these cars out quick. And it was pretty insane to see. So I guess maybe they're doing this because they have inventory. I don't know how that still holds true today. I think inventories have changed a bit. But yeah, I guess they think that they're big stuff, charging a lot over sticker. So
Now
it's worth it.
something's kind of interesting here. So the Kia's at 7.1% over. Cadillac's at 5.3. That's a luxury brand though. Honda's at 4.6% over. So if new car prices keep on going up, I do wonder how much of it is people aren't getting deals. They're paying above sticker. Do you think also people are buying larger vehicles now and
I think so.
more luxurious vehicles?
Yeah, I think I've seen more new
Because
SUVs.
what I've kind of noticed is, and this is just totally anecdotal. This is not like any like facts here, but I feel like what I've seen a lot of here recently is I used to see a lot of RAV4s, and I still see a lot of them. But then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. I see Toyota Highlanders, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see Toyota Highlanders everywhere. That's a class above. That's one step bigger. I'm like, what happened to the RAV4s? So people
No, don't want them anymore.
just jumped. They just jumped up.
Yeah,
And
everybody thinks they need a big SUV now. I don't understand. A lot of people can't drive them either. They have no business being in a vehicle
like
that big.
the SUVs have gotten bigger, and the sedans that are left are all small now. Like they've killed off a lot of the midsize, and the large sedans are almost all dead.
Mm-hmm.
The midsizes are phasing out. Like the Mazda 6 is gone now. But
Which I guess it'll come back eventually.
it'll eventually come back. But then the compacts are still all around. They haven't really been touched a whole lot in the last 5 years.
Yeah, so the gap between small and big is getting bigger.
Well, the gap between cars and SUVs is getting bigger
Yeah, I guess that's
because
true.
big cars don't exist anymore that aren't luxury cars, or they're pretty rare. They don't sell a lot of them. There's still some. The Chrysler 300, the Nissan Maxima. I do not see a lot of those brand new. I think there's one or two more.
Some luxury.
But you think of big SUVs, and there's a whole bunch of them.
Right.
Like really big SUVs.
Well, maybe I just thought of this. Maybe that's part of the shift with the dying out of sedans. People that really, really want sedans kind of have to turn to luxury models. BMW and Mercedes.
Because they're not struggling to sell cars still. They're still selling cars.
That's what they do. Yeah, they sell cars. They have some SUVs, and their SUVs do take off. I do definitely see a lot of Mercedes and BMW SUVs, but you see an equal number of sedans from those companies too.
I mean, we don't have the data pulled up on that, but I imagine their SUV growth has grown significantly over the last 10 to 20 years. But they're still selling a large percentage of cars. That's kind of their bread and butter. That's kind of what they put their money in, though. I mean, like the S-Class is Mercedes, kind of like their flagship, not the SUV equivalent of that. So also in some ways, if you really, really focus on cars, sometimes you can basically keep demand kind of high for them. I guess it just depends on how much effort you put. Like I think the K5 has done really well.
Oh, yeah.
Honda Civics still sell really well.
People
like in our
love
area,
Civics.
I see all kinds of Civics.
Oh yeah, they love Civics.
Probably see more Civics than I see like Passports and Pilots. In our area, I see a lot of CRVs, but
yeah, CRVs are very
see a lot
common.
of
They've
the-
always been kind of common though too. Though CRVs and Civics have always just been a thing.
yeah,
Seems like
CRVs aren't
people
terribly
like those.
large on the inside. Though.
No, they're pretty small
They're
as
like
far
Honda-
as SUVs go.
Roughly Honda Accord size on the inside.
Yep.
So,
But yeah, if I could give you if I had $1 for every Mazda CX-5 I saw going up through the state, it's the the Eastern Panhandle, I would probably have a couple $100.
yeah, a
That
lot
might
of
be stretching
CX-5s.
a little bit.
I
But
think
I
that's
saw so many.
Mazda's best-selling vehicle in the U.S. is the CX-5.
Oh yeah, I saw them everywhere. I
Mhm.
mean everywhere. Some of them I saw like one after another on the interstate. Like there'd be like 2 or 3 in a row.
See a lot of RAV4s and Highlanders though, or a lot of RAV4s too.
I didn't really pay attention to be honest. I didn't.
Just saw the CX-5s.
They don't really pop out to me.
Did,
I kind of get like where I have a new Mazda. I notice Mazdas more now.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things. You learn a new word, you start hearing it everywhere. I start noticing Mazdas more.
Did you did notice some bolts though, right?
I did. Yeah, I did see a handful of Bolts, and a handful of Teslas.
I
as
always see the
usual.
Teslas.
Always see Teslas if you see EVs. But yeah, I did see at least 2 or 3 Bolts noticeable. I wasn't necessarily looking for them, but they also stand out because you have one, so it's something I'm used to seeing. Yeah, I didn't really notice any other cars though, any other EVs especially. There's really not a whole lot of options other than those 2 like main things there, Tesla and the Bolts. I didn't see any Leaves. I didn't see any new recently emerged things like I did when I went to Columbus. I saw a couple Polestar 2s and then a Ioniq 5.
Well, the Leafs. I guess something interesting about the Leafs is they still have tax credits, so they haven't sold 200,000 Leafs yet.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is kind of wild because they've been out for 11 years. Um, it's actually not very impressive
That's
at all.
sad.
Because Chevrolet has lost their tax credits
Hmm.
because they've sold so many plug-ins. But one more thing about the used cars, you actually had a friend that bought a CRV, or you
Yeah,
knew
friend
someone
of
who
a
bought a
friend.
CRV, and that was you can tell us about that. Basically, roughly what it cost, how old it was, how many miles.
2019 CRV. I think it was an EXL. Um, I believe it had 30,000 some change miles, 32,000 maybe. And the car was 32,999. It's $33,000 basically. And I was like, 19, it's 3 years old. That's crazy. So I went on this website, looked up a 2022 EXL, same trim, same color, same everything. They were 34, just over 34 too, like 34 and maybe a couple $100. And I was like,
Hmm?
less than $1,500 for 30,000 less miles. 'Cause that car was almost out of warranty.
Yeah,
Actually, it was. It was 3 years old. It didn't have a
the bumper to
warranty.
bumper's gone. The powertrain's
Gone.
still left.
It's gone, and you already have half of your powertrain
Gone.
gone.
I mean, I know it's a Honda, but still, no warranty at all. Basically,
Yeah,
no bumper to bumper warranty.
yeah. And you're spending $1,500 less. However, your interest rate is going to be higher.
And if you want to buy a warranty, which you might, or if you have one issue in 36,000 miles, if you would have bought new, you wouldn't have that problem. So,
Right?
like, you're not saving money. I mean, I guess if you pay cash for the car and you have no problems for 3 years or 36,000 miles at all, then but also tires, were they new tires?
I
Because see,
don't
if those
know.
aren't new tires, those tires are gonna need replaced in like 10,000 miles. Manufacturers don't put great tires on vehicles. They generally burn up in like by
Hmm.
40,000 the stock tires.
Oh
So
yeah.
like they're like maybe you saved that most you saved $1,000 if you paid. Was I don't this buyer did not pay cash. I
I
don't think they
don't
did.
believe so. No.
But at
Yeah, it was
most
not a good deal.
most
And
you
I
save a
tried.
grand.
I tried to say something. I really did. I was like, "Are you sure you're making the right decision?" They were like, "Oh yeah, I've done my research." I was like, "I don't think you have." I took like 10 minutes to do this, and I made the decision very quickly that that was not a good deal. But whatever. So, you know what? Sometimes you can't change the consumer's minds. Like I said, people just like buying. They don't really
Some
care.
people also just want it now. I don't know what the CRV situation is right now very well,
That's
but
also
they might
true.
be very hard to find new. Like the Civics, nearly impossible to just go
Hmm.
buy one. Actually, I think it basically is impossible in our area because we went to test drive some back in January, and most dealerships had nothing. There was this one dealership that had two test drive only Civics. That's the only reason we were able to test drive one at all.
Wow.
So that's just a Civic, which is it was the new generation, so it's kind of cool, but it's a Civic, and you literally cannot find one to test drive anywhere.
Yeah.
So I imagine
They
the
used to put
CRV
those things out like
situation is
crazy.
probably somewhat similar to that, especially in this area. It's more a lot of most areas of the country like SUVs now, except for I think California still. I think the Civic still beats a lot of SUVs in sales.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I see a lot of new Civics around here too, especially.
So yeah, kind of crazy there. So we mentioned earlier interest rates. So that is the thing with newer. When you buy new vehicles, you get something called like promotional interest rates, where basically the manufacturer works with a bank to basically give you a subsidized rate.
Hmm.
The, and basically the manufacturer, if you get approved for that, because if you're qualified, the manufacturer just gives the bank extra money as part of the deal. So
Yep. So I
they
got
still make
I
decent
think
money.
it was a 2.9. No, it was
Yeah,
3.9.
yours was 3.9.
Because I ended up opting for 72 months. If I did 60, it would have been 2.9.
Yeah.
But I just work part time. Don't have my big boy job yet. So it's like, lower payment sounds better. I can always pay more when I have the ability to pay more and get it paid off early.
We'll
I
just trade it in.
I'll probably trade it in before that happens though. I
Um,
like cars. What can I say? I don't keep them very long. I've got my license when I was 17. I waited a little while to get that. Be 22 in June, 21 now. And I've had a Silverado, two Fusions, and a Mazda 6.
yeah.
So I've been driving for 4 years and I've had four different vehicles. Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
had a
crazy.
lot. Um,
But I mean, overall, I sold the first one for what I paid for it. Second one kind of screwed me a little bit because I basically got what I owed paid to me because I gave it to Grace. So I could have got more out of it trade in maybe than 4 grand. I'm sure I probably could have got a little something more. Maybe, I don't know. I only bought that one for like 12.
that's when the market was normal, so maybe you would have gotten but like 6, maybe if you sold it.
Yeah, so it wasn't much different. Uh, but still, that would have been like 50% decrease. Then I bought the other one and got an increase after a year or
Yeah.
almost 2 years. So overall track record's not bad. I put more and more down every time. The first one I bought 5,000 cash. I used that 5,000 cash down on the second one. That time when I bought my third car, I had 6,000 cash because I got 4 and some change, and I had 2 saved up from unemployment checks when I was furloughed. And then about that was 6 down, and then this last car I had over 10 down.
Yeah.
So it keeps getting bigger, but I keep getting bigger cars, so the payments have increased.
Moving up, that lifestyle inflation,
Yeah, you gotta love it.
Still working at
But
um
I like nice things. What can I say?
and then with the interest rates though, we mentioned 3.9. Some people I don't have any perspective how good or bad that is. That for promotional that's I would just say average. I would actually say that's on the highest end of
Yeah, it's
promotional
probably a little
rates.
higher than most.
But
Some promotionals even get down to 0
like
in certain
Chevrolet right now is still
circumstances.
doing 0 on like some trucks. So 0% versus like a used rate of 5 or 6. You're talking on some vehicles, you're talking hundreds of dollars a month in interest.
Oh yeah,
So when you're buying a used car, that's something to definitely keep in mind. Is it's not just the sticker price; it's the interest rate. Because 1% differences makes a big difference when you're buying something that's $47,000. Um,
yeah, pretty big deal. Nobody thinks about it really. They just see the sticker.
yeah, and then you're also, like we mentioned, you're losing the warranty. You're also sometimes losing a generation. Like sometimes you're buying something that's a last generation model. So
Right.
every 3 to well, I would say every 4 to 6 years, they basically redesign a car, and that's a new generation of a vehicle. So with that, you get, I don't know, generally it's safer, it's generally faster, it has more standard technology. It's just
Yeah,
all
standard
around,
tech's the big
just
thing
all
for
around
sure.
better. Every generation almost always better than the previous generation. So if you're saving $1,000 and you're getting a last generation vehicle, and with all those other downsides, you're really losing a lot of money. Actually, someone I know, or someone we both know, they bought a Civic. They bought a hatchback. I think they paid basically sticker. What they basically paid what it cost new, but it was like 2 years old
Mm-hmm.
or like a year old. It had like 12,000 miles, but it was the last generation Civic. And I was like, ooh, that was not a good deal. Because the new Civic's quieter, it's a little bit quicker, but it has a lot more standard tech.
Right.
And then it also has that appeal of being a newer generation. So when you go to sell it, you'll be like, hey, this is still the newest generation.
It still looks like a new car.
It
Yeah.
does. So that's the kind of the big deal there with that is you got to watch out when you're buying cars. When you're getting near the generational line, you shouldn't be paying used. You shouldn't be paying as much as a new one.
Yeah, absolutely not. It's just not worth it, especially in the long run.
Yeah.
It's just not a smart decision.
Because initially you might not really care, but then you're going to see more and more of the newer vehicle, and maybe your friends will get the newer vehicle, and then maybe if you keep it
You're
long
like,
enough, you're going to see another generation come out. So you're going to be 2 generations behind.
Yeah, that's not a good move.
Because you're financing. Most people are financing cars for 5 to 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're financing a car for 7 years and you buy at the end of a generation, you're going to see the new generation and another generation of vehicle.
Unless you buy a Toyota.
Yeah, unless you buy like certain Toyotas,
Yeah, like if you bought a Tundra
mostly the trucks.
in 2010, you didn't see a new one until this year.
Or like the Nissan Frontier, that was like the oldest.
Oh my
They say
gosh,
oldest
yeah.
new car in America because they
Since
hadn't.
like '03, maybe, or maybe a little later than
It was a
that.
little bit later than that, like mid 2000s, but they haven't done a new generation in like it was like I thought it was only 10 years, maybe it's like 15 years.
Yeah, it was a lot. But anywho,
So we have a few more articles here to go through. I know we're getting past. We're about an hour and 15. We don't have like a hard time limit. or
run
anything.
along.
This will be a long episode. Um, well, really, just really one more article here to cover. Um, let's see. So it's about Rivian, the electric pickup truck.
Electric
Well, and
startup.
SUVs. It's yes,
And the
startup.
R1S. But at the end of the article, this is on Inside EVs, by the way, for those wondering. It's called Rivian, quote, absolutely making progress on production ramp up, says the CEO. But then, let's see, I thought it was towards the bottom.
Just to give our viewers some info here from this article. Rivian started production of the R1T in September of 21. They built 1,015 vehicles last year. Their goal was 1,200. They basically blamed the lack of hitting their goal on supply chain constraints. Also, more specifically, the semiconductor chip shortage.
Oh, yeah, there it is. The production number includes only a handful of R1S, which is the SUV. And they started to produce them in December. As of the 15th, they delivered two. Two R1Ss out there as of December. I guess they might have done more by now.
I kind of forget about the R1S a lot. I always just think of the truck. I guess if I was going to buy a Rivian, it would be the truck.
I think the truck is, yeah, it's just
I'm just not
cool.
an SUV. If I'm an SUV, if I want to buy an SUV, it's probably not going to be a Rivian. But if I
Yeah, I
was going
think
to
the
buy a
Rivian
truck,
SUV is very Range Rover esque.
yeah.
It's definitely like buying a Discovery or something along those lines.
But also in this article, the CEO of Rivian said Rivian apparently they said the company's aiming to take a 10% share in the EV market by 2030. Um, that is incredible. That is an incredibly bold statement.
Hey,
Not
I'm here
bold, but like
for it. I'm a fan. I like Rivian a
it's
lot.
a really high goal because everything's moving to electric. So we'll see how it goes.
I
There's a
if
chance
I had the
Rivian won't
means,
exist in
I would have an
2030.
R1T right now. If I was out here making the big bucks,
Yeah. Well, after
as
you
they
wait
say.
on it to be delivered, because I think they're pretty far out
I
right
guess I could
now.
probably order one now and maybe be making the big bucks by the time it gets here.
Now you can probably sell it for more than sticker.
Yeah, for real. That'd be something that people would pay a premium to have it now.
You pay at least $5,000 over, I'm sure, on a
Oh, I'm sure.
$70,000 vehicle.
Oh, I'm sure.
But where Rivian said they plan to be 10% of the market by 2030, I think something interesting is there's a really high chance that in the next 10 to 15 years, or maybe shorter, you're going to start seeing a lot of these startup companies basically be bought out by bigger companies. Kind of
Or
like the
just
auto market
die.
in the 30s to the 60s, 1930s to 60s, is they kind of bought out a lot of the smaller car manufacturers. Um, and that'll most likely happen again, I imagine.
Yeah, most of these, actually, almost every car company goes bankrupt. Um, the only
Or
ones
gets
that
bought out.
haven't. Saw this on an interview with Elon Musk with Joe Rogan. Elon said the only two that haven't in the U.S. Ford and Tesla. He said, but it was very hard to keep Tesla afloat, and they were being subsidized heavily. So I don't know if I'd really consider that
We'll just say Ford then, really.
maybe just Ford. Yeah.
But
So it's been, and Ford had a rough road. Their stock was not on a good track for a while.
well, Ford's also struggled with. I was watching a video about the Taurus that came, the first generation Taurus, and apparently before they released that, they were really struggling financially.
Yeah. So they definitely were getting close at times.
Well, just it's hard to think of any company that's been in business for 100 years.
Right.
Like there's only a handful of companies that are still around, like household name companies that are still around after
So
100 years.
yeah, so a lot of these startups, especially EV startups, they're taking on these big tasks of the startup costs, manufacturing plants, um, brand new designs, trying to source materials, bridging all these gaps. And then at the same time, like in Rivian's case, they're trying to implement their own charging networks too. So they've tried to spend all this money doing all these things, yet they're not really selling a whole lot of inventory.
Well, this
So
is kind of the Tesla approach all over again. Like Tesla, when they started really with, I guess, with the Roadster, but I'm going to more so talk about the Model S. So they started with the Model S, really expensive for its time, really nice, kind of basically a luxury car, and they sold that for like 4 or 5 years before the Model 3. So they had to sell these low production, high margin vehicles basically until they could get their production numbers up. They could get enough capital and enough partnerships to be able to mass produce a more affordable car. And I think Lucid said their goal is, I think their long term goal is to get an more affordable electric vehicle out. But it seems very, very hard for a manufacturer to start out with a $35,000 or $40,000 car.
Yeah, you have to have money also coming in from a higher end vehicle, it seems.
Yeah, they basically need time to develop it, and they need time to build their supply lines or supply chains. And I guess the easiest way to do that is to build these really, really expensive cars with these really high profit margins, like the Lucid Air, which the Dream Edition was $170,000. Well, I imagine their manufacturing costs are probably less than $100,000.
I would assume.
So that's a lot of profit, which they're going to take that and they're going to turn that money and put it towards new factories and basically R&D and.
Yep, and work on that dream, the affordable car.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to see it. But yeah, I just hope we still see some of these brands in that 2030 range, still one, on their own, but two, existing because of their own efforts and not because someone bought them out and kept the brand alive. Because there's a good chance a lot of these names could just evaporate.
Well, they will. I don't think there's no way they're all going to be around in 20 years.
Right.
None of them may be around in 20 years.
They may not. Should be unfortunate. But at the same time, the big guys at play are going to have their own versions of everything that they're bringing to the market first. That will take off much better just because they're household names.
What will happen is, I guess I just thought of this, Volkswagen owns a lot of like brands. You could see basically General Motors or Ford buy these brands, own them, kind of control what they're allowed to do, but it's kind of its own thing, like its own brand. Like General Motors owns GMC, Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, and they
I think
share
Ford
parts,
has a stake in Rivian, I believe. I think Ford's up to 20%. Stake in Rivian. I'm gonna double check that.
I also believe Amazon has some money in Rivian too.
So I have hope for Rivian. It's got some big players behind them.
I mean, you never know.
Ford's got 12%.
Okay, but I mean, basically, one day you could see, Ford just buying Rivian out, or I kind of thought Amazon buying them out, but that would be kind of strange. But Amazon also Jeff Bezos bought a newspaper, so you never know.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we've gone on rambling for long enough. We'll let the people rest.
All right. And, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can leave them down in the comment section. And we'll reply to all the comments that we get. So,
You're special at this point. Just don't wait too long. We might kick off here before you know it.
Yeah. So, it's my chair.
Nice.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
See you later.